Patch 13.20 is here, so let's go over all the changes and take a look at how they affect our tier list this week. Starting off with this week's buffs, we've got Galio, Jinx, Melio, Morgana and Ziggs. The nerf champions are Akshan, Bel'Veth, Kai'Sa, Quinn and Zed, and Cassante also sees a load of changes too. Duskblade has been nerfed and Ghostblade and Blighting Jewel have been buffed. Lord Dominus Regards also gets some changes as well. A bunch of runes are being adjusted, including nerfs to Conqueror, Lethal Tempo, First Strike and Press the Attack. But by far the biggest changes coming in this patch are the huge adjustments to the jungle and anti-snowballing too, so it's definitely worth a proper read through the patch notes if you can. Today though, we're just going to get straight into the tier list and start off with the top lane. In the S tier we have Aatrox, Camille, Darius, Fiora, Garen, Malphite, Olaf, Poppy, Renekton, Singed and Tryndamere. The meta is pretty stable up here in the top lane right now, with Bruisers and Gordrinker lovers still having a great time. But either way, there's plenty of options for you to play. Aatrox remains one of the strongest top laners you can play at the moment, with crazy amounts of sustain and damage, and his ability to snowball is just a bit ridiculous. Obviously you've got the seriously strong Gordrinker build, but you can also go for more damage with something like Eclipse. But whatever you go for, Aatrox is in a great spot, and if you want to rank up, getting good at this guy is a great idea. Speaking of ranking up, if you want to solo carry, you've got to start playing Darius. He's one of those top lane champions that nobody likes to play against, as he's got so much early game damage, he can snowball ridiculously fast, and he can genuinely 1v5 if you get good enough on him. Stridebreaker is still performing exceptionally well, especially when you want to stick to your enemies, or you can just go Triforce and one-shot everyone. Either way, GG. With a pretty similar playstyle to Darius, we've also got Garen, who can split push or team fight, but either way, it's all about jumping onto someone, spinning around a few times, and pressing your ultimate. And at the majority of ranks, until you get to really high elo, Garen is just stomping so many top lanes. He's easy to play, he's very easy to get fed with, and if you do get fed, he's very easy to carry with too. Moving down to the jungle now, and in the S tier we have Briar, Echo, Evelynn, Fiddlesticks, Ivern, Jarvan, Kha'Zix, Lee Sin, Lilia and Nocturne. It is very hard to say if and how the jungle meta might change with all those changes this week to camps, smite, avatars, healing and anti-poaching. So make sure to download our desktop app to keep up to date with the jungle meta and all their best builds and runes and everything else as it all unfolds over the next week. Lee Sin is well and truly back in the jungle meta, and when he's good, he's just so much better than so many other picks. Only if you can play him well enough though. Lee Sin has all the tools he needs to outplay enemies, get ahead early game, carry the late game with big insect kicks and everything else in between. So if you've got a bit of time invested into Lee Sin and you've got a few mastery points lined up, now's the best time to bring him back out again. Because if you are good enough to play him perfectly, there's not many better choices. One of those better choices though just might be Briar, who's been a little bit broken ever since they originally buffed her since her release. Briar is absolutely terrifying to play against, both in concept and in the fact she's just a little bit broken. She has so much chase potential, she has so much burst and healing, and she can be so hard to shut down once she starts getting a bit too fed. So if you aren't a Briar main or don't enjoy playing her, it might still be worth considering banning her. Echo has risen back into the top tiers in the jungle recently, and honestly in some games Echo feels like he's absolutely broken. If you go against champions that can't deal with you and can't lock you down, you can dive onto backlines, delete them in seconds and just ult back out to safety. Echo clears the jungle pretty quickly, he has a great time navigating the map and taking down objectives, and with just a few items you not only have a lot of damage but crazy amounts of mobility too. So give him a go if you haven't already. Over to the mid lane now then, and in the S tier we have Cassiopeia, Lissandra, Lux, Neferi, Nico, Orianna, Pantheon, Swain, Sylas and Xerath. Control mages like Ori and Liss are having a blast right now, but to be honest there's such a big variety of impressive champions to go for. Nico is still one of the strongest champions and mid laners in the game though, and it's not just all about her deceitful deceptive passive, it's more so about her ridiculous AoE damage and burst. Nico has the ability to lock down entire teams, but also deal insane damage to those teams at the same time. She's been in an excellent spot for months now, and as far as we're concerned, if there's no nerfs on the way, Nico is going to continue to dominate the mid lane meta. Lux got a few buffs a few patches ago, and this has really proven to be just what she needed. She just feels so much more consistent and reliable now. She's still got that long range catch potential and crazy burst damage, but now she's proving better into more lane, she does better with her lead, and she's just winning a lot more games. Speaking of long range burst damage, Xerath is still a fantastic choice in the mid lane too. There really is not many better artillery champions you can play, so if skill shot champions are what gets you out of bed in the morning, there's no one better you can play than Xerath. Ever since they made those changes to his passive and his ultimate's charges, he's just felt so much better as a champion. So if you do enjoy Xerath and you can land those ults consistently, crack on. Let's move down to the bot lane now and start off with those AD carries. And in the S tier we have Ashe, Ezreal, Jhin, Kai'Sa, Karthus and Vayne. So Kai'Sa's had a little bit of a nerf this week to her base stats, but honestly we just don't think it's going to make enough difference to dethrone her from the S tier. Kai'Sa has been so strong for what feels like so long now, with a variety of different builds and options that you can play depending on the game. We've seen full AP, we've seen hybrid, traditional AD crit, and now we're seeing the lethality Umbral Glaive variation. But honestly, it just doesn't seem to matter how you build this champion. She will always be viable, incredibly consistent, and she always has the opportunity to pop off in any game. Jinx has finally got some buffs this patch, and it feels like we haven't seen this champion in such a long time. Jinx has definitely had her fair share of the spotlight in recent seasons, but this one, so far, she's just been a little bit non-existent. This week it's her passive and her ultimate that are receiving some pretty huge buffs, so let's see if it is enough for her to make a proper comeback. Although he isn't an AD carry, Karthus has been dominating in the bot lane for such a long time now, and although we have moved him in and out of the S tier to the A tier depending on his popularity, he's always maintained such an impressive win rate and just seems to be an inevitable force in the bot lane. Karthus has both incredible early game damage but also fantastic scaling too. It doesn't really matter if you get fed or not in the early game because all that matters is you do get enough AP to press R and unleash some ridiculous damage in the late game. So if you do want to break from those AD carries and want to play some AP, just give Karthus a go because he's still so damn strong. Finally, let's have a look at those supports next, and in the S tier we have Bard, Blitzcrank, Janna, Pyke, Rakan, Senna, Soraka, Thresh and Xerath. Melio has been seriously missing for quite a few months now. He was absolutely broken for a while, and now he's been quite the opposite. This patch, Riot have buffed his passive, his E, and his ultimate, which is quite a lot to do at the same time. Melio just offers so much in his kit though, with his utility, his sustain, his bonus range, and of course his AoE cleanse in his ultimate. Which means you do have to be really careful when you do buff him, because one buff too many, and he will be picked in every single game. So we've moved Melio up a tier with the buffs this patch, but don't forget to check back next week in our updated tier list video to see just how much difference these changes made. Morgana is another support who's just been completely forgotten about in recent years, and apart from a few random periods in the jungle, she's only ever really been known as the one with the black shield. So this patch, Riot have increased her W's AP ratio and increased its damage to monsters. Her ultimate's movement speed is increased and the stun duration is increased too, plus so is the magic damage. And aside from a small cooldown increase of her black shield, these changes look seriously positive. Morgana is one of those champions that you never really see too often as you go towards higher ranks. But in low elo, she's incredibly popular, and she's definitely going to be a bit stronger and probably one to watch out for this patch. Finally, we also wanted to talk about Senna, who's definitely cemented her place in the S tier recently. As a support, she's basically a secondary AD carry, bringing some insane ranged auto DPS in the late game, as well as some solid poke, sustain, and catch potential in the early game too. But you can also play fasting Senna in the bot lane too. Pick a tank like Tahm Kench alongside Senna, and you will quickly see just how broken this combo and this champion can be. Now, Senna is not necessarily a champion you can blind pick in every single game, but when you do get her in the right drafts, she's unbelievably strong, so give her a go. That's going to bring us to the end of our patch 1320 tier list video. Before you go, don't forget to check out Mobalytics.gg for all the best builds, runes, and guides to help you improve on your solo queue adventures. Thanks everyone for watching, and as always guys, take care.